Oh, hey, yesterday's MacroBioBoi. Hi, I'm today's MacroBioBoi. And sorry, this is a little culty and weird, but the reason why I make this video is because one of the privileges that I get to enjoy being the content creator in the position that I am is that I get to go and talk to the people that are in the community, and I get to learn from them as well. Shortly after finishing my testing from this video, which you might be watching or you might be coming from, finally figuring out the answer as to whether or not we can snapshot either the Wither Paragon legendary node or Shadow Blight key passive, both of which we cannot. Shortly after finishing that testing, I was actually able to get into contact with FirstSnow, the person who actually made the Reddit post that kind of prompted me to make this video in the first place. After finishing my testing, I reached back out on the Reddit thread because I initially basically just said like, hey, GG, that's an awesome find, really good research. I loved his post and how he kind of formatted everything and gave proper credit to all of his various sources, just like super top tier content right there. But I went back and let him know like, hey, I have found evidence to support that this does not work. I would love to hear from you because I am going to be putting out a video about it, but I'd love to just make sure that, like, one, I haven't missed anything that you covered, and two, just kind of pick your brain about it. And as we were finishing upstream, he actually hopped into my YouTube chat, hit me up, was willing to step into a Discord call with me, and we got to sit down and just kind of talk about his findings, what led him to think that, just in general, giving him, you know, really big congrats on being able to finish off a tier 21 Abattoir of Zir dungeon on the Necromancer at all. I also love the fact that he's using Blight and not Double Curse, because I just hate the Double Curse version of the Necromancer. It's just more squishy and just generally less fun to play, but that's just my own bias. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to share this conversation because most notably, FirstSnow wanted people to be able to see this conversation, right? He hoped that if people were going to form opinions or come to conclusions, that they get to see all the context, and I definitely agree. So what follows is just kind of our conversation. There's going to be some slight editing because we went off on a couple different tangents, mostly talking about how much it sucks to run around in the snow while you're at class, and also just generally talking about the game and different items and itemization. But I chopped it down to what was relevant to our conversation about this particular finding, this idea of snapshotting, just so you can have a little bit more context, and maybe you can enjoy hearing from some other people in the community who either don't have that spotlight or haven't been given an opportunity to have that. So I'm just glad that we're able to do that at all. Because it turns out there are a lot of really smart, awesome people playing this game who are just as passionate or even more passionate than a lot of faces that you see online. So I figured this was a really cool opportunity. Thank you again, FirstSnow, for hopping onto the stream. I really appreciate that. Again, just congratulations and another amazing post. I love to see more of what you do. But here you go. Go ahead and jump into it. I hope that you enjoy it, and I'll see you at the end of the video. Also, I'm not sure, and feel free to immediately say no. I don't know if you wanted to like hop on a Discord call just so it's easier to communicate. If you're interested in doing that, do not feel like you have to in any way, shape, or form, but I'd also like to give you the opportunity. Hello, mic check, mic check.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Here, I'm gonna bump you up just a little bit. First off, hello. Hi, my name's Mac. Pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I've seen you commenting on my post for a little bit, so it's cool to finally chat.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. So everybody, hey, just real quick introduction. So this is FirstSnow. So this is the impetus for why we, started streaming today. Congratulations again on the tier 21 clear. That's insane.
Well,
GG.
And I mean, I did just mention on Reddit, like I'm not excluding the possibility that I could just be incorrect on this entirely. But I did wait to post until I felt pretty confident that this was what was going on. So yeah, I'd like to see what you've been doing in your testing today.
So there's the base conceit, right, is that we believe that Wither is going to snapshot. So that should be like fairly simple to test, right? You should be able to put on a lot of intelligence, load into an instance, either a Nightmare Dungeon, Abattoir of Zir, or the training room. And just as like a quick heads up, I said, you know what, maybe it's just the training room. So I went and loaded into a Nightmare Dungeon after a fresh load of the character as well, and I got the same results. So it might be something very special to Abattoir of Zir.
That's what I've been thinking as well. So, and that's, again, like that's the part that I'm not sure about because, again, like I don't know if there's hidden affixes or something else going on in AoZ too, right?
Right. My only pushback against that is that other forms of snapshotting, so most notably elements, right? You don't have to load your character. You don't have to save and exit. You can in real time change the snapshot. I don't know what Rob has said about the Paragon board, because obviously he has a lot more experience in that, considering I just started testing this today. But the idea here is And I used Decompose and Corpse Explosion. I got the same results on both of them because they're both damage over time effects. But I'll show you the testing with both. But I'm going to throw on a bunch of Intelligence. Oh, and then my two-hander. Okay. So I'm going to save and exit, and then I'll come back in. But I should be seeing a 98% damage multiplier. And I'll like close out of the game. Why not, right? Like go full bore. So again, this is a character, 722 intelligence, a 98% damage multiplier here. I load in. I'm then going to take off all this gear, and I'm going to swap out to a weapon that does not have intelligence on it.
You're looking at the tooltip for this?
I'm just showing you what the tooltip currently says, so that we should know if it has snapshotted what that damage multiplier should be once I get the damage numbers, right?
I see. Okay.
Yeah, so we should expect basically a doubling of damage, a 98% damage increase. We take all of this off. Boop, 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 boop. I swap out to a weapon that doesn't have any other modifiers that are going to be relevant for what we're testing. Doesn't have any intelligence on it. I'm going to start with Decompose. So I'm going to stay out of the close designation, since I do have close damage here. Nothing else really going on in my stats other than the all damage from like literally getting through the Paragon board here. So we're doing 457 damage and then 741. So 457 and then 741 for damage over time procs. That's one of them is from Wither, one of them is not. And if you run the math on that very quickly, 741 divided by 457 is 62% damage increase, right, which is representative.
Yep.
Yeah.
So oh, sorry, go ahead.
Basically, off the bat, that's just like done. Like that's just, there's nothing else after that. I continued to test with more variables, but bare minimum, do you see something that happened here that you think might be misconstruing what the conclusion or the outcome was?
No, I'll sort of walk through like what happened to let me believe that, because I also I'm not gonna lie, I've been doing pretty much all of my testing in AoZ, since that's where like it's gonna impact me ultimately, right? Like it's pushing AoZ. So I was talking with Aldrich, and we were doing the testing with the aspect of the elements, and it looked like it works. Yeah, is it all right if I just kind of walk you through like?
Tell your whole story. I'd love to hear it, because that helps a lot.
So yeah, I got the idea after watching Rob's video that I credited that might be possible for the Wither node. What I noticed was that in his video he was looking at his sheet attack power and not the legendary node itself, and for Wither that wasn't really going to apply. So I figured like regardless of what the legendary node said, it was still worth like looking into whether or not it was going to actually have effect.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the first thing I did, I'll just throw on a bunch of intellect and all stats gear and like see what happens. And I walked into AoZ, and then that was the first time I had an instance of over 500 mils. So like I went back to class and I messaged him all excited like, hey, I think this works. Like I don't know exactly what's going on, but like I've never even seen over 400 at this point, I think, and now I just saw 500. So a few hours later I came back from class, and I spent about 5 or 6 hours and couldn't get like that to like I did not see another 500 mil instance at all over those 5 hours. Ultimately then, like before I went to sleep, I logged out, and then I was frustrated. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning, and I was like, I can't get this to happen again. Like I logged back in and I tried it, and after about 10 minutes I was able to get it to like I was able to get another 500. So I said, okay, there's got to be something. So then the next day what I did is I did about 20 runs with quote unquote snapshotting, where I put on the int and all stats and all that stuff and enter AoZ. And I did 20 runs where I wouldn't do that, both of them using HAL, and then I repeated it. I didn't have enough time, so I did like 10 runs of each with Fist of Fate. I figured that was less relevant anyway. And on average, peak damage instances with the quote-unquote snapshotting on average were only slightly higher, but there were specific dungeons where there were, like, it was clear that across the board they were higher with the snapshotting, and that just didn't occur at all when I wasn't doing that, if that makes sense. So, and that's still not a large enough sample size where that could be ruled out due to chance, which is why I keep saying like I could be completely wrong on this. For me, that was enough at that point to say like I feel fairly confident that there's something going on with me equipping a bunch of int and all stats before entering the dungeon, if that makes sense.
So yeah, so it does. And and this is not me to sit here and do like armchair psychology at you, right? Because
No, please.
I didn't study psychology. That's not my area of expertise. But so my background, if you do not know, my background is in microbiology and research science.
Oh, that's awesome.
And also, I heard you say between class. I thought you meant between classes in Diablo 4.
No.
You mean
I'm a medical student.
Oh, that's sick, man. That's awesome. GG.
Yeah.
Please go heal the sick. I would appreciate that. Well, so without being able to talk to FirstSnow, how could we come to these conclusions, right?
Right.
I didn't know that you're using Fists of Fate at the time, but I thought, okay, so let's say it like this. Let's say that we have a confirmation bias. We see a phenomena occur. We see the 500 million damage. We know that is possible, so we seek to understand how that is possible inside of inside of attempting to test a hypothesis that we believe should work. So we're already testing from a place of bias that requires like standardized testing to eliminate our ability to find results that are not actually representative of like our hypothesis. So we see a 500 million degree hit. Your story of you then kept playing and didn't see another one for a while is a really good indicator of this is data which isn't supporting what we expect, and it's going to become discounted. How do we know that it became discounted? Because you tried to manipulate a variable, logging in and out, believing that might be causing a change in how the snapshotting's occurring, right? Maybe if I logged out, everything resets, something like that.
Not quite. No, I actually just logged out because I was frustrated and I was going to sleep. Everything else you said.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But then I came back on and I have no idea if something's happening there with logging out and back in. Yeah, about 15 minutes later, I just came back on and I was like, let me give it like one more try.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't change anything. I was like, I'm just gonna do like 5 more runs and see if. And it was the like second run I did that I was able like that clip I sent was from. In that same night. And then the next day. Yeah, I was able to get it more and more, and then like when I wasn't, I was logging out and it back in between, and yeah.
So and all of that is with Fists of Fate on, right?
All of that was with Fists of Fate, but like I said, I did when I was doing the 20 runs with and without, I did that with Hal, and then I think it was about 10 runs with and without Fists of Fate.
And I'll keep doing like this reverse Sherlocking here. So we have a new variable, the logging in and logging out. After doing that, after doing that, you see the phenomena again. Ooh, I see 500 million again. The logging in and out could be something that made this occur. So now we're working from a standpoint of, oh, maybe we also have to include logging in and logging out. Let me now try to run instances. Let me run like sets of experiments again until I'm finding the outcome that I believe I should be. Is a very skewed way that a lot of the time causes us to ignore other variables or other sets of data that might be incredibly valuable for sussing out what the truth is. So let's look at Fists of Fate as our example here.
I see your point. Yeah, absolutely.
So Fists of Fate basically says anywhere between 1% damage and 140% damage, which would be the difference of using Howl from Below, right? Howl from Below gets us a 40% multiplier. Fists of Fate gets us up to 300. Any damage number that's between 1 and 140, you would exclude as relevant data because it's the expected outcome, or it's lower than the expected outcome, but it's really hard to see lower than the expected outcome. And we're only noticing it once it's in the 141 to 300 range. So that gives us 160 rolls out of 300 that may give us data points which match, represent, or confirm your bias of I'm getting higher damage numbers by snapshotting. So when we're talking about a range, if we're talking about a variable with a range of 300, to be able to get data that is strong,
you'd have to do thousands and thousands.
Thousands and thousands. You know, like to get the data that I did, I ran about 20 instances, about 20 damage instances. Why? Because the variable range is very, very small. It's actually it's a binomial distribution. It either there is a damage multiplier or there isn't. and that damage multiplier is either equal to what Wither should say or it isn't, right? So that variable is a very, very small thing and very easy to see. Fists of Fate has such a wide range that like it's very difficult to see that valuable conclusion that actually has like a statistical relevance. My stats, absolutely. My stats study was the weakest part of my study in science out of all of it. So I only have the very basics of statistical analysis to employ here. But
so bringing that back to like what I was doing for Wither, that's why like when I switched to testing, I did just switch to Hal because I figured if anything this will be slightly more controlled. And again, like 20 with Snapshot 820, that's not nearly enough to account for. To say definitively that Wither and Shadowblade are snapshotting. Like what you were saying, it could have been because I was looking for it more. But I did notice that in the 20 runs where I was snapshotting with Hal instead of, or quote unquote snapshotting, I'll say, with Hal equipped instead of Fist and Fury, the peak damage instances were higher, and there were specific runs where like I had overall average. It's like it seemed like the 50% proc chance of Wither was taking effect, and I didn't like. Again, there were a couple runs that when I wasn't snapshotting where I saw like similar outcomes, and I wasn't sure if like I could chop that up as due to the quote unquote hidden affixes or whatever. So, but I did see it more often when I was snapshotting, and yeah, that's in total that's only 40 runs. So like you said, you would need thousands and thousands, and then especially with Fist of Fate. But even with Hal, I imagine you'd probably need close to about 1,000. With all the information we don't know.
So the interesting part about Howl, so Fist of Fate turns it into thousands. The only other, and this should have been a question that I asked like right from the jump. You were in Abattoir of Zir, which means that I believe that you had a fully built character, right?
Yes. Yeah. So there's like a million other.
There's like so many overlapping duration based like timers of damage boosts where it's like not only do you need to high roll your damage, just like you need to high roll the damage on your weapon first and foremost, because there's a 50% difference between minimum and maximum, right? So your maximum damage is 1.5 times your minimum damage. So there's a 50% damage variance here. There's a damage variance in skills themselves. Then there's a duration of buff uptime, where maybe over all the time that you've been playing, you've probably seen it. You just weren't like thinking to like actually keep all these numbers in your head. Maybe every time you had Blighted up, and you had Flesh Eater up, and you had Fueled by Death up, and whatever, you always were min-rolling your weapon damage and min-rolling your skill variance. So now we're talking about like a 20% variance multiplied by a 50% variance multiplied against what's the average expectation of all of my damage buffs being active at the same time.
Right. Yeah. And like I'm in complete agreement with you here, and that's why like I keep saying, and like it's not that I'm not confident. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Yeah, I'm not entirely confident that this is going on, and it could be confirmation bias. But I was confident enough that I had enough data to say that like this is what I think like is a reasonable chance is happening inside AoZ at that point.
Yeah. I like quite honestly, and like this. I mean, like the first comment I left on here, right? That like on your Reddit post, like this isn't facetious. It's just like very good work here. Great citations, 10 out of 10 post and research. I think you did a very good job. Like I understand how you came to, or I can understand. I'm not about to sit here and tell you that I'm God and I'm omniscient, but I can understand how you came to this conclusion. And I think you did your due diligence as far as you could in a lab scenario where you couldn't control enough variables. Like I think Abattoir of Zir is just too hard to control that many variables. And that's why if you ever see any of my videos, my characters end up looking like this. Like this, nothing is sacrificed. This is silly, but like
the hard part about doing that with inside AoZ too is like
you'll die.
You have to be able to, you have to be able to survive.
Yeah, you'll die immediately.
You have to be built enough to like survive and actually be able to, like I was trying to get it to a point where I could fight a group of elites for about like 10 to 15 seconds at least to have like, okay, that'll be enough time where my blighted will proc, my my corpse consumption will go, like all those things will come together at some point over the 10 to 15 seconds, hopefully. And not like individually, but like over the course of the dungeon if I'm doing that. But then yeah, like you said, if I'm trying to control all these different things and they start removing them, I'm just gonna die, which is exactly what happened.
Yep.
There's 10 days left, and I have a little bit more pushing to do. So like I'm not super. I'm saying that because otherwise I would sit down and test this for hours and hours, right?
Yeah,
like if
sure.
This was, like the first week of the season, but like ultimately, like I'm not interested in like proving myself correct. I think like for me, I'm just gonna keep doing it, and then like at the end of the season, hopefully we start to get some more information from the developers on what was actually going on. What I would like to do, if that's okay with you, is I would like at the very top of my post on Reddit, I would like to edit it in with your video. And if you do include this conversation, that would be great, because I would like people to know that like I might be wrong on this, and your based on your conclusions, I am wrong on this. But I would just like for people to at least see like how more than what I wrote in the post, at least like how I came to these findings, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so here's what I'll do. There's two realities. One, I do want to get the video out. Two, I think that this conversation is incredibly valuable, but I don't like to post stuff without people's consent. So let me chop and screw up this, like us talking here. Let me chop and screw this up. I'll send it over to you just so you can take a look at it. And then you can be like, yes, I agree. This is fine for you to put out.
Appreciate it, though. Thank you.
And then good luck with all your studies, man. Please go out there and save everybody's lives. I would appreciate that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for having me on too. I appreciate you bringing me on to talk instead of just dismissing it entirely. So yeah.
All right, man. Have a great night. Cheers. So I hope that you're able to enjoy that conversation, just giving you more insight, again, into kind of how FirstSnow came upon this, what the general thoughts were, how I personally thought that those conclusions might have been inappropriate due to different variables, and just being able to generally discuss it. Again, thank you so much, FirstSnow, for being able to stop in. I super appreciate that. And rather than go ahead and like shill for myself at the end of the video, which I typically do, just go give FirstSnow's YouTube channel both a subscription and then also give a like on any of his videos. Go ahead and comment. Big congratulations for being able to clear that tier 21 Abattoir of Zero dungeon. An amazing thing to be able to see. I think there's now 3 people who have cleared it, and FirstSnow being amongst them is really awesome. So yeah, just go ahead, give him his roses. He deserves it. Really awesome findings. And as always, thank you so much for watching this video. I truly hope that it helps, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.